Hello and welcome to TTRPG, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before we get into introductions and our recap, we're going to set the scene with a little bit of a cold open. The camera pushes up through the water and across toward the ever glowing Miami skyline and into the office of one very important person without a heartbeat. Red carpet and velvet covers most of the room, and sitting there in stark contrast to the crimson surroundings, there is a man with these very long, angular ears, this pale gray skin, and these very sharp teeth and glasses on the end of his crooked, very long nose. And there is a knock at the door twice that says, "Come in." And in we see step a familiar figure in a suit that helped collect all of the party from the day before. She adjusts her gloves, sort of winces as her arm moves, and says, Prince Baxter, from what I've told, the coteries made contact with Miss Sharon in Little Haiti. I don't know where they're going to next, but reports say that the girl is a Lasombran. And you see the man sort of stops scrolling on the iPad in his hand, and he sets it down, and his desk has several tablets that all the screens that are alight all seem to be in various chat rooms where prices scroll by and various things are being bought and sold. And the man takes his glasses off and says, "All right, a shadow mage. Well, considering her lineage, I guess that does make some type of sense. But what do the Guru and the Anarchs want with a little Lasombran girl? That's the question, isn't it, my dear?" And you see that at the naming of the pet name, she sort of like exhales a little bit and the shoulders droop, and sort of the not the prestige, but she relaxes essentially and sits down and says, "I'm not sure, but an attack from the Anarchs and the Guru at the same time means that they're very unhappy that we have her." And Lyman sits back in his chair and says, "Yes, well, that's part of the privilege, isn't it? Not only do we get a new asset, but we also get to spit in the face of our opponents. Good days. I'm sure you're recovering fine." She sort of nods, working the shoulder a bit, says, "Wonderful, wonderful. Where do you think they'll go to next?" They could go a couple of different places, but I'm assuming they'll probably stop at one of the art galleries. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they'll talk to Casp and save us all the trouble. Either way, is there anything that I can grab you before you go on your vacation? She pauses for a second and says, "No, thank you, your prince." And Lyman just takes a second and says, "Very well. Go on. Scatter. Enjoy your time off. I'm sure the whole place will be on fire without your delicate hands in control." And there's the smallest hint of a smile as she gets up and nods, walks out of the office. And as she does, amongst the 6 tablets, Lyman also pulls out this small handheld, very old fashioned Blackberry phone. And as she does, he looks at a digital copy of the Polaroid that was found in her backpack. It says, Juniper Lee. Well, one way or another, you're going to shake things up in Miami, kid. Hopefully, in the good way. And he snaps the Blackberry in two in his hands. And we fade out. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone who finds themselves inside and out of the gender spectrum, my name is Dee, and welcome to episode 2 of Lost in Miami. With me, I have some fantastic creatures of the night that are here to cause trouble and mayhem wherever they may go. Starting on, let's start with Pearl. Amanda, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing fantastic. My name's Amanda, and I will be playing a Candy Pearl extraordinaire, who is a genderfuck of a punk drag from the 80s, where Michael Alig was was their patron, or their sire, rather. They are always down to party and look fabulous. And I'm going to pass it over to Christiana.
Hi, I'm Christiana, she, her pronouns. I am playing Dawn Dervish, also she, her pronouns. She is a leader of a very peculiar group of people out on the West Coast. And that's all you kind of need to know for now. So I'll pass it along to Nikki.
Okay, here we go. Hi, I'm Nikki, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm playing Maeve Stapleton, who also uses she, her pronouns. She is a Ventru. She is super grumpy because she's been fighting Nazis since the 30s, and it hasn't stopped. That's all.
Understandably so. And unable to join us this evening, we have the lovely Christina, who normally brings us Sawyer, that will be able to rejoin us in the future. My name is Dee. I'll be playing everyone who is not the 3 people that were just named. And yeah, I believe we can pick up where we last left off, which was after the party convened and met the young Juniper Lee. They went to the safe house that was set up for them by the Prince of Miami, Lyman Baxter. And on the way there, they were attacked by a sniper. And then through a well-timed vision from the party's Malkavian, they also learned that werewolves were chasing down their escort as well. The party got a little bit settled and met the house's automated defense system known as Phyllis, and decided to first go to the first place on their itinerary, Little Haiti, where they met a woman named Mama Sharon. And while they were there, they learned that Juniper Lee is a Lasombran. Upon exiting Mama Sharon's house, they realized that their car had been vandalized to form a vague threat with information that no one should have except for the coterie. And after prying eyes departed, however, that threat changed to something far less clear, a message that simply said, "It's time to come home, Junebug." And that is where we will begin. We will begin with the very, very loud whirring of blades and the mushing of something soft and textured. The sun has fallen, and you all awake for the evening. And whomever makes it downstairs first will see that Phyllis is very loudly blending up what sounds like a milkshake of some kind. You see Juniper Lee is also already on a bar stool, sort of kicking her feet. Who do you think gets downstairs first?
Probably Maeve.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the other two probably are asleep. I don't want to speak for them. They probably sleep in. We got a club kid, and
So you're right.
You are absolutely right. That's like assuming that they slept at all.
Yeah. So Maeve comes downstairs, and she's already perfectly coiffed, makeup on, wearing her heeled boots in the house because she's an asshole like that, and already has a cigarette lit and is like, what is all that ruckus?
Oh, hey, Maeve. I asked Phyllis if she could make me a milkshake.
A milkshake for you.
No.
Have you tried eating a milkshake?
Um, no. But I know that I can't really eat food. It's not for eating.
What's it for?
And you see like the very mischievous childlike gleam in her eyes, and she says, "It's for a game."
And what is the game?
Okay, so Phyllis, is it ready? And you see the milkshake sort of dispense out of the blender into this small little cup. It's about like, I'd say it's like 8-ounce cup or something like that. And the milkshake is this very dark brown color. And she says, "So, okay, you know how the whoever like scribbled a bunch of stuff on our car, right? So I had the idea that if I put a bunch of this milkshake outside and like sort of around the perimeter of the house, then we'll know if they get close and their shoes will stink."
Um, you'll know they get close because their footprints are in it, or are
Exactly.
you expecting it'll make a sound? Okay.
Well, it might make a sound, but I don't think we'll be able to hear it.
Well, if I saw a milkshake on the ground in a perimeter around a house in which I was stalking, I would simply walk over it.
Exactly, but they won't see it. Phyllis, prepare the demonstration. And you see Phyllis says, "Turning on all lights in the downstairs area." And all the lights turn immediately up. They're like set to dimmers and they're turned up to the highest, brightest setting. And she goes, "Watch what I can do." And her eyes start to glow a familiar red that you have recognized from when a vampire is using most disciplines. And you see the lights above you start to dim and flicker, and the shadows from different parts and areas of the kitchen start to cloud over the lights above until you are standing in pitch darkness. And she says, "I think that I can keep the shadows around the milkshake. Okay, this is hard." And eventually she releases and the shadows recoil. And Phyllis dims the lights. "Yes. Indeed I do, Madam Stapleton."
And I believe it might be best if we didn't do it because I'm afraid of the impact on you and your energy.
And she sort of huffs and says, "Well, I gotta do something. I can't just let you all protect me. If someone's coming to fight me, then I want to fight them too."
This is not the way to do it. I'd be happy to show you what I know about hand-to-hand combat, but I don't think a milkshake is going to stop anybody who wants to hurt you.
"Wait, you know how to fight?
I was a spy, darling. Of course I do.
And she like is looking around for somewhere to put the milkshake, and Phyllis just opens a trash can and she throws it in there and says, "Well, screw the milkshake. Show me how to punch people. Can you do the Vulcan death grip?"
That's not a thing that exists, but
Damn it.
I know. It's a bummer. I have tried. All right, then. Follow me, and then I'm going to unzip the boots, and I push the furniture apart in the living room area, and I'm going to show her some self-defense moves. Specifically, I want to teach her how to break a hold, which is way simpler than you think it is. And then how to knock over somebody who's bigger than you. And so basically the first one, if someone's got a hold of your wrists, you act like you're pulling and then suddenly stop pulling and headbutt them in the sternum or the chin, and they'll let you go. And the second one, if you drop to your knee a certain way, you can use your shoulder to knock somebody over who is much bigger than yourself. And so Maeve shows her both of those.
All right. So as you're doing this, you immediately, Maeve is likely not surprised by this, but despite being a child, the vampiric blood that does course through Juniper now, it makes her very agile and stronger than any like normal kind child would be, for sure. But even outside of that, she takes to it very quickly. You have to show her both of the various hold breaks maybe twice before she gets to the point where she's just refining it rather than trying to learn it. And she seems just very focused and very dialed in on all the instruction you give her.
Yeah, if she's that advanced, then Maeve's gonna also show her how to like throw someone over your shoulder, and best like proper punching and kicking techniques so that you don't hurt yourself, that sort of thing.
Go ahead and roll me intelligence plus brawl and add 1 die to it.
Okay. I think Nikki knows more about this than Maeve does.
Well, it's not that Maeve necessarily doesn't know it, but Maeve's not really like naturally a teacher, I don't think.
That's true. Nikki is also naturally a teacher. Okay. All right. Let me get my blood die. Okay, that was a good one. I know I want to roll over 4, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So in that case, that's 4 or above or 5 and above?
4 or above.
Got it. Okay, then in that case, it's 5 successes.
Okay. With 5 successes, by the time the rest of your coterie comes downstairs to join you, she's at least got the basics of some fairly good self-defense training, at least enough to separate her from anyone who's trying to restrain her in pretty much any way. As you all convene downstairs eventually, I need everyone to make me a rouse check as you wake for the morning. Remember, for a rouse check, all you do is roll a number of dice equal to your hunger pool, which will always be at least 1, and tell me what you get.
One, is it counted in successes?
Just tell me the number on the die.
Oh, I have a 5 and a 3.
Okay.
I have a 4.
7.
Okay. All right. Dawn, you gain another point of hunger. You're up to 3 now. All righty then. Phyllis greets both Dawn and Pearl as you come down the stairs, and you see Maeve and Juniper both sitting there, not sweating because you are vampires, but you see them sort of sitting and discussing something with all the furniture sort of almost moved around in like this like ring type setup so that they have plenty of space in the center.
And I'll see them and be like, oh, did you all have a morning seance too?
No, I've been teaching our young friend here some self-defense techniques that I learned when I started my spy career.
Maeve, I didn't know that you like to fight.
Like to or know how to. It's more know how to. It's not my favorite way of dealing with problems, but sometimes you need to, and some people deserve it more than others.
Oh, don't I know that?
I usually try to talk my way out of things, but yeah, I understand the
use.
Yeah. Of a good punch.
It's quite a utility in it if you do it correctly.
especially if you aim for the dick.
You've been doing a lot of teaching today, haven't you, Maeve?
Not the language I used, but definitely a soft spot.
True. So, where are we off to today?
Well, we have an art museum that sounded interesting, I suppose, and I think we had a stadium.
Right. There were a few museums, were there not?
I believe so.
Okay. Well,
There was specifically there was a museum and there's an art gallery. The difference obviously is minimal, but one's a little more official and one is privately owned, whereas the other is owned by the city.
should we prepare differently today, seeing as how we were attacked the last time we were out?
Well, I've taught the child some self-defense, and I don't really have anything to bring or prepare.
Any extra weapons or?
I just got these claws, babe.
Yeah, you know what? That's all you need.
Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking for now, until we know more, why don't we go to the public art museum? I feel like there'd be less chance of us getting ambushed.
It's true.
Sure.
Juniper, do you have a preference?
I mean, I'm cool with either one. I like the paintings and stuff, so.
Same. Let's do that then. Does anyone prefer
Okay.
to drive, or should I continue driving?
I don't have a license, so if you could continue to drive, that would be fantastic.
Wonderful. If the two of you could sit with Juniper in between you in the back, that would be safest for the child.
Before you depart, there was a message from Prince Baxter that came in. It was a message particularly for Dawn, I believe.
Oh no. Okay.
The contents of the message were admittedly vague, but hopefully you have context that I do not. He said that you should probably prepare some of your personal friends and constituents. They may be needed in Miami soon.
Okay.
Are these friends or food, Dawn?
Why can't they be both? But thank you for the message, Phyllis.
Of course. And with that, you all pile into the car. Juniper, make sure to grab her backpack. I actually need to make a rouse check for Juniper. Okay. As you settle into the back seat, there is a slight fidgetiness that comes from Juniper as you begin driving toward your destination.
Junebug, what's the matter?
I'm fine. I'm just kind of hungry.
Okay. Just give me a moment. Dawn will pull out a very shady, beat up looking burner phone from her bag and place a call to Mr. Tommy Sarbone. And she's kind of like whispering, is it in English? You don't know. Maybe you don't. But she closes it really quickly and says, don't worry, we'll have some friends over and we'll make a nice little treat for you, okay?
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
Mhm.
I haven't like bit anyone yet?
I assume so. But I think we all have. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
So if that is how you would like to partake, then you can do it that way, but you don't have to. There are different ways.
One of us could bite them for you. You can still drink. We could set up an IV. There's lots of different ways.
Animal blood's also an option.
Okay.
Yeah, animal blood is not my favorite, but
It's not my favorite, but a pigeon will do just as well in a pinch.
Okay.
yes.
All right. Thank you. And you continue your drive, specifically the public art gallery that you are going to. If you're going to the public one, you'd be going to the Wynwood, which is technically it is a neighborhood, much like Little Haiti, but it is far, far more centered around the displaying and sort of uplifting of the surrounding neighborhoods art, particular artists and graffiti arts and such and things like that. And as you start to head in, the note next to this in the itinerary says you will be looking for a Caspin Canes.
Did you say Caspian?
Caspin.
Caspin.
K-A-S-P-E-N. And as you approach, Dawn, you can already see. Did you ask Tommy to bring? How many friends is Tommy bringing?
3 friends.
Okay. You see Tommy sort of standing on the very outskirts of this neighborhood, just sort of like looking around. There are not cars allowed down most of the streets in Wynwood past 7 p.m., which it is. So you have to park on a nearby street and you walk from place to place to observe the art. And as the car is parked, Dawn, I assume you get out and make your way over to Tommy?
Yes, and I give him a very deep kiss when we approach.
Hello. It's always a blessing to see you.
Yeah.
How
is everything going?
It's going well in your stead. I'm handling everything the best I can. People are anxious to gaze upon your glory once more, but you have things to do, business to attend to. How can I be of service?
We have a young friend, very much like the young friends that come to us and they're confused. They have a lot of questions. She has some too. And I'm with 2 other very wonderful, wonderful people who are going to show our little friend the new way. So I was hoping that we could have a little bit more experienced members of our family to come and help us.
Right. And yes, I've brought them with me. You all heard her glory. So shall we introduce ourselves then? I'm Tommy. This is Sister Linda. That is Mr. Jason. And lastly, we have Tina all with us. And we have been following the illuminated path of her glory for quite some time now. And it is a pleasure to make the acquaintance of such people that she would call friends.
The pleasure is all yours. I really do believe that. If you would just follow me this way.
Of course. And Tommy sort of like brings them all along. Maeve and Pearl, you see that while Tommy is sort of like wrangling the other three, they all look like they have not taken their eyes off Dawn since she came into their point of view. Even as they approach you all in the car, it is not until Dawn sort of like motions to you all that they finally look away into everyone else.
Everyone, these are our friends, Linda, Jason, and Tina, and they're going to help us out today.
Hello, friends.
Maeve just smiles.
You see Juniper sort of like half wave, kind of not really knowing how to interact.
Don't be shy, Junebug.
Hi. And you see they all wave and say, a pleasure to make your acquaintance. And Tommy gives like sort of like a small bow and says, well, I believe these streets are fairly clear. I believe this SUV should give us enough cover for the experience, Your Glory.
All right. We're going to do this here then?
It is completely up to you. We follow your will, my glory.
It's not like we have a room in the museum.
Okay. I guess it'll be fine then.
I'll park in like the darkest part of this parking garage so that we will like find.
And assumedly, since you are not all, I don't think you'll all be feeding at the exact same time, since this is more of an explanation of things. Tommy will send whoever is not being fed on, like, to keep eyes on if anyone is watching them.
Yeah. Junebug, and she'll kind of whisper this to her, do any of them smell particularly nice to you?
That Tina lady kind of smells good.
Yeah? Okay. Tina, you have been chosen.
Thank you, Your Glory. And she does a very, very deep curtsy that almost like takes her a second to stand up from. And she sort of like hurries over. And Dawn, you make it your business to know exactly who is in the family. And you know that Tina is she's sort of like just experienced, like she's been here for some time. You remember when she first joined, and she has not been here that long.
Okay.
But she is still very, very eager to assist in any way she can. And she walks over and very polite face, she says, hello, my name is Tina. It's nice to meet you, Juniper. And she starts like rolling up her sleeves and just waits for instruction.
As she rolls up her sleeve, Dawn will go behind her and just place a hand in the middle of her back and whisper a little prayer. There's lots of celestial themes in this prayer, talking to a goddess, talking to the great out there is what she calls it. And when she whispers this prayer, she tells Tina to go ahead and go ahead and present her wrist to Juniper to see if
she does so.
If Juniper will maybe instinctually do something.
Well, with 3 successes, she does indeed. She sort of like just takes a second and grabs the wrist and bites down. And as she does, there's sort of the like involuntary reaction when skin is pierced. And Juniper immediately stops and goes, did I hurt you? Are you? And she goes, I am fine. Please. You are completely fine. Just take your time. And she takes a second to drink and drink and drink and drink, and then lets go. Goes, sorry, that was a lot. And you do feel Tina sort of like stagger with your hand against her back a little bit. And she says, very well done. Uh, Most people on their first time make much more of a mess. You're natural. And Juniper just sort of like nods. You see that she's sort of like, you can almost see her disassociating. And you all, if there's one thing that you remember for as long as your unlives continue, the first time you feed off of a person it's slightly transcendent. Like you see the pupils start to dilate a little bit, and you know that she's gonna be on kind of like in a literal sense a blood rush for
Yeah.
a little bit as she just like sits back against the seat.
I take Juniper and I start stroking her hair,
All right.
and petting her on the head. And
Absolutely.
You did very well, Sister Tina. I'm very, very proud of you.
And you see her face just light up as she says, "Thank you, Your Glory. The pleasure was mine."
Yes. Now please return home with Tommy.
Of course. Pearl and Maeve, are these people that you can feed off of?
I believe so. I think my only restriction I wrote was children. So everyone else is fine.
Right. That is your exception.
Unless one of them smells like garlic. Which she finds
I
important.
prefer if they have some kind of like addiction.
There is that you would smell
That won't be a problem.
familiar.
Okay.
Yes. You do smell.
Yeah, so I don't
someone.
have.
Jason is currently rolling on ecstasy.
Okay. Because it was actually funny because I was like, Pearl's definitely like eyeing down Jason a little bit, but
And from behind you, Dawn, you hear, "Your Glory.
Yes.
Apologies if this is a bit forward, but you do seem peckish as well."
I am, but we are in the company of non-members of the family, and as you know, our hospitality is everything to us. So if
Yes,
you
of
could
course.
please make yourselves available to both my friend Maeve and my friend Pearl, that would be the priority.
And both Linda and Jason approach Maeve and Pearl respectively.
Again, Dawn will do just a short little prayer on both of them before she tells them that it's okay to go.
Right. So who is partaking explicitly?
Maeve will.
Okay. 1 second. Awesome. So those who would like to feed are more than able to, sort of capping off. Always a good way to start the evening. It's always a sort of like a good waking up. It gets, in a literal sense, it gets the blood flowing and things like that. Your vision is clearer. Your senses are sharper. You can peer through the darkness more easily. And most importantly, that ever chattering beast in the back of your head and throat is quelled for now. And after enough time, Tommy says, "If that will be all, Your Glory, we will allow you to get back to that which you all had planned for the evening."
Sounds about right.
Dawn, are you eating?
Does it seem like I can? Like, GM question? Because Dawn would never overexert any of her followers.
Right. Tommy has not been fed on.
Dawn will not feed on Tommy.
Yes, that is unless you would like to, for lack of a more eloquent phrase, double dip on one of the family members.
I only had one hunger point just for point of reference, so
Same.
like I only took just a little.
Yeah, none
Just a
of
little
them
nibble.
have been drained to a point of danger, like
Okay.
far from it. But if you did not want to feed off of the same person as one of your compatriots, Tommy would have been the only option. But they would both still, you would not be able to get down to 1 hunger, but you would be able to remove a point of hunger.
Sure, I could do that then.
All right. And you all watch as Dawn sort of almost like a priest. The entire situation has been very like celestial infused almost. It's not so much it's a prayer, and it's almost like a ritual that she goes through. And Dawn feeds from all 3 of the brought family members equally to sustain and remove 1 point of hunger from your pool. And with that, Tommy and the rest of the family will excuse themselves, retreating back to a car that you assume is parked somewhere nearby. And you all are left to walk through the Windwoods by yourselves. There is a number of, as you're walking through, you begin to immediately see the street art, and Juniper, who is sort of like finally come back to her full senses, is sort of looking like very impressed with a lot of the street art things, like especially the very large scrawling murals of various figures like Maya Angelou and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And there's just a lot of like street and wall art. Some people you recognize, some people you don't. As far as the denizens, it's a little more populated than Little Haiti was. But the denizens also are, it seems to be a less relaxed affair. The people seem fairly dressed up, sort of like business casual type things. You do know that there are some restaurants for kind folk to eat at, and there are a couple of kind who likely do not know whom exactly they are primarily surrounded by. As you make your way through the Windwoods, how would you like to go about finding your contact?
Sniffing.
That's why I was just like, what abilities do I have?
I was just gonna walk around and just every once in a while stop and see if I smell anything familiar.
Okay. Go ahead and make me, all 3 of you can make me, go ahead and make wits plus awareness, or investigation, your preference.
Wits plus
awareness or investigation, whichever you prefer. That is a bestial success.
I got one of those, plus 2 more. God, out of 7 dice, I only rolled 2 successes outside of my blood die. That is ridiculous.
I have 3 successes.
Okay.
I have 4 successes, but I have a bestial failure on my blood die.
Okay. So Dawn, as you are, it's strange. You are not it's not necessarily the beast itself. It is, but it also is the active mind as much as the subconscious mind. You are sort of coming down from the high of your ritual. And there's a difference between the leader of your family and the member of the coterie. The differences are slight and here and there, but you're sort of like trying to wrangle your personality in a little bit. because you, of course, are at full blossom in front of the family in order to present them with that whom they follow. So you're a little distracted and just sort of like walking around trying to rein in the god complex. Pearl, you are very in tune with the people that are going by and clocking the people, and you know that you can smell a particular concentration of kindred within a it almost looks like a renovated parking lot. There seem to be quite a few kindred that have gathered over to there, and you see standing in the midst of that parking lot there is a this young person of sort of indiscriminate gender that's kind of sitting on what looks like a picnic table and seems to be speaking to everyone else. Maeve, with a bestial success, you feel the hairs on your arm and the back of your neck sort of stand up when you spot that same person. And they look up, and you can only just barely make out their facial features. But as they look up and lock eyes with you, you see a wide grin come across the face as they step off of the table and walk over to welcome you all and say, well, 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 it is my guests here to partake in the beauty of my home. I must welcome you all. It's a joy to see you. Gorgeous things come to visit, don't they? And they just sort of like stride, almost like very lithe, very cat-like. They are wearing a this body contour dress that is black and red with what looks like hand-stitched roses up the side, and in between each hand-stitched rose there's just a gap in the material. Overall, the hair is slicked back in with it looks like it's just gelled down, and the eyes are this very, very deep sort of glittering purple. Black person as they sort of approach, the sound of their heels clacking against the asphalt, and they say, well, I should introduce myself. You stand in the domain of the illustrious Caspin Canes, and I thank you so dearly for being my guests of honor for the evening. Whom do I have the pleasure of welcoming into my kingdom?
Hi, I'm Dawn. It's very nice to be here, Caspin.
Pleasure.
Maeve Stapleton.
And there's the eyes linger on Maeve for a second before turning to Pearl.
And I put out a hand and says, Candy Pearl extraordinaire, but you can call me Pearl.
You spoil me. And they kiss the hand and then crouch and say, and that must make you little Miss Juniper Lee. You know, everyone in the city is talking about you. And she just sort of like is like, oh, hi. And it's just kind of like shrugs, not really knowing what to say to that. And they stand back up and say, well, you all are here to fulfill some itinerary business that the prince has given you, I believe. Yes?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you see they turn and say, and what are all of you still standing here for? Disperse, be gone. And you see the various like kindred that were sitting just sort of like get up and empty out the parking lot and say, do any of you have an inclination for artistry in particular?
I've spent some time recovering stolen art.
Wonderful, wonderful. And they produce this small plastic box that has these various colored, very thick pieces of chalk that says, and then they say, young Juniper, I am told that you are quite the artist yourself. I'm a bit of an artist as well, in what might be considered a different way. Please, choose a color. You see Juniper steps forward and chooses like this sort of like chartreuse pink. And as you look at these sticks of chalk, there is an array of different colors that you would not normally see in chalk form, particularly. But nonetheless, there's pretty much any color you can think of. And Caspin sort of waits for each of you to also pick a piece of chalk.
Mabel, take a deep green, like an emerald.
Okay.
Dawn will actually just pick up a white or silver one, if there is, and start drawing on the backs of her hand and up her arm.
Pearl will take a turquoise colored one.
Interesting indeed. I appreciate your initiative, Miss Dawn, but we do have a canvas that I would much rather prefer. And you see they snap their fingers, and four people sort of just like step in and pick up and move the chairs and the tables out of the way. And Caspin begins to sort of step around and say, the ground that you walk on is the canvas of many an artist who has lived and died within my kingdom. Before I give any assistance, even to the prince himself, you must first leave your mark on my territory. Something to remember you by, if you understand. And you watch as Caspin locks eyes with Juniper Lee and winks, and then just begins to levitate off of the ground. And after floating about 10 to 13 feet in the air, you see they just cross their legs and arms and say, you can begin whenever you're ready, and tell me whenever you're finished.
Okay, can you explain what's in front of us one more time? Like, is it like a canvas or?
It's just a asphalt like parking lot.
Got it. Okay.
And we can draw whatever we want.
Yes, dearest. Anything that you think would be a mark worth leaving.
Maeve is going to kind of sit with her like on her side with her hand up and she starts to draw the outline of a shape of a woman draped over a chaise lounge.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Dawn, what are you drawing?
Dawn will draw a very first grade level pirate ship with stick figures and the fish that like you draw this a circle and then it's like an X on the tail, and like the birds in the distance in the horizon are like the little M's just in the horizon.
Okay. Fantastic. And Pearl?
Pearl has very messy lines, and it kind of sketches out something that kind of looks like a beast head, like not quite like a wolf, but similar shape, and then draws like a really rough, like 3-pointed crown on its head.
Okay. Fantastic. And as you all finish, you see that Juniper Lee is still drawing, and there's something in her eye. She seems like dialed in, and she's drawing whatever she's drawing, she's taking up a lot of space with it. And Yeah. It's hard to contextualize it until she's done drawing it, but as she steps back and it finishes, it's almost like she's drawing it like out of order. Like in some ways, it's like she starts with details and then goes back and outlines it. It's very eclectic and different. Um, and as she sort of like steps up, she wipes some sweat from her brow and just like smears chalk all across her forehead. And says, "Okay, I think I'm done. That was fun." And you see Caspin is just sitting up there, just absolutely delighted with what Juniper has drawn, which now that you take a step back, you can see that it's this very, very long, sprawling, almost tapestry like dragon that in between its head and tail, across the scales on the back, there is a bunch of little images essentially that tell a story of what seems to be one person meeting another, them having a child, and then them disappearing, and the child toward the tail, just sort of like looking off the tail into the horizon, which is depicted as a sun off into the center. On the underside of the dragon, like below where the people would be drawn, there are a bunch of these weird markings that you don't inherently recognize. Who has an occult score of 2 or higher? Okay. You don't recognize
Sawyer.
Yeah. You don't recognize any of the markings on the underside of the dragon, but Caspin sort of levitates down, steps, and says, "Well, you all are certainly an interesting bunch, to say the least." And they turn and say, "Where did you get the inspiration of drawing these at the bottom?" And Juniper sort of like shrugs and says, I don't know. They were always in like the paintings in my house growing up, so it's one of the first things that I learned how to draw." And Caspin sort of nods.
While they're talking, can Maeve take out her cell phone and take pictures of the chalk?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can show Sawyer later.
Indeed. And Caspin turns and says, "Well, that was a lovely little exercise, and thank you all for indulging me in the pleasure of it all. I believe I should get to making this trip worth your while in return, shan't I? Please follow me." And begins to lead you out of the parking lot and into this very large, it's almost like a hollowed out, not really a tower, but more like a duplex, almost like these two buildings that are stacked on top of each other. And as you walk in and pass the sort of facade like shop front, you enter into the back where you see there are a couple of people on various couches that are either feeding or sitting and flipping through books. There are a whole smattering of kindred back here. And Caspin takes Juniper's hand and sort of sits her in a chair and says, "So, have you ever heard of a Rorschach test? Ink blots?" And she nods slowly and says, "This is going to be something similar to that, but rather than looking at ink blots, I'm going to ask you to sort of make them. I hear you're decent at manipulating shadows, right?" And she nods a bit more assuredly and says, "Wonderful." And looks to the rest of you and says, "This may take a bit if you'd like to familiarize yourselves with any of the surroundings or patrons, or if there's anything one of my people can get you, please let me know."
Maeve is not going to let the child out of her sight.
Mhm.
So if they go to another room, Maeve is following.
They are just in the center of this sort of parlor
Cool.
area where there are other kindred about, and he sits her down at a desk. It almost looks like like an old like hair salon almost in like layout, but there's just a chair and a desk that's in the middle. And Caspin goes through one of these drawers and produces this blank book that Maeve, I would say that you could sort of see that there appear to be like prompts, but the prompts are extraordinarily abstract, like manifest one hand clapping or like things like that across the various books. And you watch Juniper sort of like furrow her brow and set the book on the table so she can focus, and she begins to collect various shadows and bits of shade to create whatever she thinks are the best symbols of the prompts.
While this is happening, Maeve's going to ask Caspian, how did you know about her ability with the shadows?
Well, the prince was kind enough to give me an update as soon as he received it so I could expedite the process of
When was
finding
that
out a bit more about her.
When did that update happen?
Goodness, I believe it was near sunrise last evening. I didn't see the message until I woke up tonight. Curious.
Yeah, I am concerned for the well-being of Juniper, and I'm interested in what you're testing her for.
Well, as far as what I'm testing her for, it's partially an aptitude test and partially a potential test. I'll be able to see how potently and how defined the shadows she can control are and how long they last after you all depart. I'll record all this information, send it to His Princeliness.
When were you made aware of the child's existence?
2, possibly 3 weeks ago.
And at that time, did they tell you how long she'd been around for?
No. It wasn't until she landed in Miami that I was told her particular age. Sort of minced a couple of the plans I had. Had to find a kid-friendly version of that book. Not exactly easy.
Well, I appreciate that you did find a kid-friendly one.
Oh, well, of course. I take the utmost care of all those who come under my domain. And there's a very, very wide smile that they cast at you as they say that.
I kind of tilt my head and ask, is Juniper the youngest that you've come across in your domain?
In my domain, yes. I've seen younger children before. I believe the youngest I've seen was 6, but that was much farther north toward Guru territory, wildlands and outsiders, odd things. And what of you all? You are given this mission with what I would assume is only the vaguest of information.
Of course.
We're learning more every day.
She certainly has an aptitude for the arts. I'm surprised she's not a Toreador.
I believe those talents were from before.
Yes, but generally when one sires a child, the aptitude of what they can do is taken into consideration. For example, and they start to walk a circle around Maeve, you are dressed very resolutely, and yet you have an edge to your dress, sexiness, for lack of a better term. I would assume that you are in the business of getting information from people.
You're wise.
Hmm. Among many things. You are likely a Ventru.
How could you have guessed?
Hmm. Our personality traits from before are generally what draw our sires to us in particular. You wouldn't ask someone who is very particular, business minded, and resolute, for example, to be a Malkavian. It just doesn't. Believe me, stranger things have happened, and no glove fits every hand that it comes across, but it's odd.
Do you want to do me next?
That does make Maeve smile.
Probably.
So Maeve has not
Yeah.
smiled in front of Caspian at all, but that
And
does make her smile.
I
And-
giggle a little.
you see Caspin sort of like rolls his head back, rolls their head back and says, likely not in public, but we could figure something out.
Oh, oh. No, I mean, do you want to guess what I am?
And you see that they get very close to you and sort of do a 360 around you and take a brief smell and says, you are an interesting one. I don't smell familiar blood, and yet you have an air of worship around you. You're very important to very many. And yet I've never heard your name before, so that means the many you're important to are not important to me. Not to mention the glitter and the dress. It's a shame. You'd make a wonderful Toreador. I'm going to guess that you are... I actually think you're one of the poets. Are you a Bruja?
No.
Ah, passes. I've shown my mortality, Dawn. And they sort of like flop in a chair dramatically.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure you're good at a lot of other things.
Yes, so many things. And you see they perch their hands and stare at Pearl and say, you, gorgeous, are a gangrel, and that's clear as day.
And what gave it away?
Oh, just the everything. And might I say, you are absolutely rocking it, by the way.
I smile, kind of preen a little bit.
And they lay back and say, I would advise, please make yourselves comfortable. Get situated. Perhaps we'll trade stories. It will take her at least an hour.
Maeve finds a place to sit down, lights a cigarette, and starts going through her smartphone to do some banking.
All right.
Gotta stay rich somehow.
Preferably with other people's money.
Absolutely. Old white man's money.
Yeah. Funnel all of it out. And as you all sit down and lock in for some comfortable passing of the hour, Caspin keeps your attention and trades more than a few platitudes and stories with you. That is where we're going to take our break for the evening. Everybody get up, get some water, stretch, do your bio breaks, and we will be back for the second half of Lost in Miami in just a bit. See you then. Oh, hi. Welcome back to the TTRPG channel for the second half, episode 2 of Lost in Miami. Last we left, the young charge of the coterie was being taken to a very flamboyant person by the name of Caspin Keynes. And they were currently doing a bit of a Rorschach test in a certain way to find out their aptitude with the Lasombran arts. And as we sort of fade back in, Caspin says, well, this has been lovely, but I believe that she is flagging me down because she's done. So I will go see exactly what it is that's up with her. Excuse me. And you three are sort of left to your own devices. Obviously, both of them still in view, but they sort of make their way over to the desk and such, and sort of crouch and begin to have a conversation. And you see a flicker of confusion on Caspin's face, and then a bit of a smile and sort of a shrug. And they dig through the drawers and produce another book and hand that to Juniper and close the book that she had and bring it back with them and says, where on earth did that little girl come from?
Wish we knew.
Sits down. They sit down and say, well, she finished the book and asked for another one. So I suppose you'll be my guest for a bit longer into the evening.
Is it like children to ask for extra work?
Very odd, isn't it?
Depends on the child, depends on the activity. I mean, she does like art, so.
Something tells me she's not had a lot of chance to express herself. I have an idea. Crystal, darling. And you see this one lady sort of come over. She's like very broad shoulders, shorn hair with this sort of very elegant faux hawk that is rainbow colors that starts like at the front with bangs and the colors transition all the way down. Very tall on the upper edge, like probably 6'1", 6'2", in heels on top of that. So she's like 6'3"-ish. And she says, yes, Caspin. You see our little guest over there? Well, and they sort of lean in and whisper to Crystal, and you see like the sort of like, this is not exactly stone, but the harder features sort of soften, and a smile goes on Crystal's face, and she says, I can absolutely do that. And she disappears up the stairs for a bit and says, it's a surprise. I think she'll like it. But as I was saying, she doesn't strike me as someone who was able to express herself very openly. I mean, some of these designs are intricate for sure, but looks like she almost ran out of space on the pages for some of these. And as they flip through the book, you all see that the various answers to the prompts, there's a lot of detail. It's not very like defined and like an elegant masterpiece, but you can see what they mean when there's just so many things crammed into the various page. Like Juniper's just had so many ideas of how to answer this question in all the different ways, and she just tried to cram them all into one piece of paper. And that trend continued as they flipped through the book. And it's a interesting one.
This looks a lot like when I'm in a trance and I'm just writing. And the words and the images aren't exactly mine. They don't come from my brain, but from a higher power.
And you're a Malkavian, yes? I would assume you have the sight.
Mhm.
And they sort of look over at Juniper and say, did you all recognize those markings on the dragon she made earlier?
No, but we believe our
No.
friend might.
Far be it from me to spoil the surprise. I think her background is more interesting than we give her credit for. I don't think her relationship with the underworld started when she was turned. Very interesting indeed.
Not if she said she saw those symbols around her home. We
Yeah.
don't know much about her human parents, but perhaps they were more interesting than we knew.
Interesting indeed. Well, certainly an interesting little girl, to say the very least. Well, either way, while she toils away on that, um, is there anything I can get for you all? Don't look particularly hungry, I don't believe. Any other type of entertainment I can provide?
I'll just kind of look away awkwardly.
Do you have any
What kind of-
musicians?
I was just about to ask.
Sorry, what was that?
Musicians. Do you have any musicians?
Of course. Is there a genre preference?
I'm sure
Do you
my
know any-
preference is separate from Pearl's.
Do you know any club music?
Indeed. I could certainly arrange for that. And you will see them sort of not even say anything, but just cast a glance to one person in particular across the parlor. And they sort of turn, their attention was not on Caspin. They sort of turn their head over to Caspin and nod slowly, and then sort of stand up almost trance-like and disappear out of the renovated hair salon. Should be arriving shortly.
It's been a while since I've had a good soiree, if you will.
Indeed. Well, you'll certainly bring life to all of these dull little things. They're so tired. I must work them too hard. What a shame. They'll live, or I suppose they won't. And after about 10, 20-ish minutes, the person that walked off reappears with someone who looks very excited. This sort of like short, scrawny looking dude in just like a white t-shirt, a backwards hat, very underdressed considering the rest of the clientele. And like tucked under his arm, he's got this set of turntables, and a desk is brought out for him, and he sets up and begins to play some of his own personal EDM music. And despite all signs pointing it to being terrible, it's actually fairly pleasant. It's the very much the club sort of like rave glow sticks and fishnets aesthetic. All that's really missing is like the overhead black light, and you see now with a little bit of music playing, the conversations become a bit more lively. There's a bit more laughter and things that are happening. And Caspin says, hopefully it's to your liking.
Oh, darling, I haven't had this much fun in a while.
I'm glad to provide. And eventually Juniper Lee sort of like comes over and pulls on Dawn's arm a little bit.
Yes, darling.
What's this word? And she sort of points to the word reconstitution. Like what I mean, I can read it, but what, I don't know what it means. It's like And you see she already has created like a large amount of things on the paper below this prompt. So it's almost a little odd that she's asking you for what the word means now, because she's clearly already started on this prompt in general, but she appears to be going through to finish some final details and has decided to ask you what reconstitution refers to.
Well, it can mean a couple different things. It's when you build something again. You build it up, like maybe it was broken, and you teared it down. And in science terms, I believe, although I'm not the best person to ask this, I believe it's also like when you add a liquid to a dried substance and it like comes back to life.
Like astronaut food.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect example.
Okay. And you see she starts immediately. She's almost using her finger as like a stylus to like drag bits of shadow around on the paper. And as she does, Crystal puts a hand on her shoulder and she like jumps and turns and says, "Did you dye your hair yourself?" And she like, you know that face kids get where they immediately assume they're in trouble. Like she just goes like, "Yeah." And Crystal produces this bottle of pink hair dye and says, "We should do it properly so it doesn't fade." And her eyes just like go completely wide, and you see that at the corners of her eyes, small little droplets of blood begin to appear. You all would know as kindred that the only fluid in your bodies is blood. So as like these emotions sort of get to her and she starts to cry a little bit, these like blood droplets well up at the corner of her eyes, and she like wipes it out of her eyes. She goes, yeah. Maeve, can I get my hair dyed?
Of course. Why would I tell you no?
Well, I don't know. You tell other people no a lot, so.
You just kind of hear Pearl cackling in the side.
Only when there's good reason. There's absolutely no good reason that a 12-year-old can't dye their hair.
Yeah.
Did your parents give you a hard time about you dyeing your hair before?
Well, my mom didn't really think that it was fit for a lady or whatever.
Gross.
That's what I said, but whatever. And Crystal sort of like pats her on the shoulder and looks at you, Maeve, and says, "We're just going right over there. We won't be out of eyesight."
Great. Feel free to cut it however she wants as well. And if you have Caspian, do you have somebody who does fashion as well?
Oh, as far as what's the little fashionistas wearing?
Juniper, is this your preferred style, or is there something else you'd like to try?
And she like thinks for a second and then runs over to Caspian and pulls out her phone and like shows a couple pictures, and you see that they're just like smiling at the phone. And goes, I can do that. You go get your hair dyed and I'll have your outfit waiting for you. How's that? And she like nods and rushes off with Crystal. Crystal goes, "Don't run. There are people dancing. They won't see you. You're small." And just like follows her through the crowd.
Maeve mouths thank you to Caspian as they help out with this.
And Caspian disappears for a bit, leaving you all to revel in what's become a little bit of a pseudo rave. Someone has, as with most parties that start out as regular parties and transform into raves, you don't know where the glow sticks came from, but they're here now. And people are just vibing to the music. The guy who's playing the music looks extremely nervous and also somewhat relieved that people are actually like liking what they're listening to. and is just like trying to focus on playing the music. And you all are left to your own devices.
Everyone around us are kindred.
Make me a wits plus awareness check.
Four successes.
With 4 successes, there are it's mostly kindred. There are a few people who smell a little off. There's one woman who is dancing in like this almost like pearlescent all white like suit. And there is a this sort of gruff looking older guy who's got his hair's dyed like got a yellow streak going through it that's also dancing. They don't smell kindred, but they don't smell kine either, and they do smell different.
Shocking everyone, Maeve starts dancing.
They're not the ones that smell off, though. They don't smell human.
They don't smell human, no.
Okay.
They just don't smell kindred.
Okay. If there are no humans here, she will not attempt to feed on anyone.
Okay. And as time is sort of passing, you eventually see Juniper Lee return with a much more appropriately dyed pink mohawk that has been shaped and shown how to be taken care of by Crystal. And she's wearing these very big, stompy, all black combat boots, sort of some ripped up black jeans, just like a basic white t-shirt, and this leather jacket that's got like 2 chains that connect over where the pockets would be. And she's wearing sunglasses as she approaches.
Well, now that's appropriate for a young lady.
You look like a badass Junebug.
Maeve points when she says that, and like, that's exactly it.
Smiles very wide.
I smile and I say, I think it's time for a little debut, don't you think?
And she nods.
And just like that, I like take a little bit of a command of the people around me, kind of form like a little runway and encourage Juniper.
Absolutely. And she struts down it very excited and very happy. As she does twirl, there are little droplets of blood that sort of like splatter on the ground. And you do see that she is like crying and with a very wide smile on her face, as like Caspin and everyone else is like 100% like full on clapping. And it's a very very self-expressive moment, and she looks very glad to have the opportunity to have it.
Mother extraordinaire would be so proud.
And like all good festivities do, you all sort of take and enjoy this impromptu bit of night off work. And as the music begins to die down and some people begin to disperse and things like that, Caspin does pull you all aside and say, well, pleasantries aside, there is the matter of her aptitude tests. I'm sure you've all noticed that her blood is quite potent, to say the least. But her control over the shadows is interesting. It's very expansive. She doesn't have a bit, very much definition behind her control, but she has a large amount of power behind what she's doing. She could produce a lot, she could control a lot. It's just when she begins the control, what she can do with it is unfocused. Now, you all are fairly new to Miami, from my understanding, but you'll know that there are no Lasombrans in Miami. I don't know whom exactly the good prince plans to have more formally take over her training and control of things and understanding of what exactly it is coursing through her veins remains to be seen. However, the other thing that I noticed, and I'd be interested to hear your friends' opinions on this same thing, the girl has an aptitude not just for controlling shadows, but it appears for magic in general. I think her parents may have been magi.
Would
Now,
make sense.
it does, and also it raises more questions. Magi are generally some of the few kind that are completely aware of the Camarilla and the Anarchs and all of us creepy creatures that lurk beneath the surface, and generally they would know better. It's odd that they were killed, gotten rid of, disappeared. Let their child just be, what, taken by the prince in Miami? Florida's a ways away from where she's from.
Do we know that her parents are actually deceased, though?
No, but what else could wrench a child from their mother's grasp?
Destiny? Or perceived destiny, anyway.
Well, magi are certainly not my specialty. If you would like to follow up on all of that, I believe you also are planning to visit the American Airlines Arena downtown
Yes.
at some point. Marlon should have more concrete information on that sort of thing. Very curious little ball of energy she is.
She's good though.
Indeed. She has a spark of humanity that's usually lost when you become one of us. I wonder what Lyman wants with her. Must be something that we don't know yet. But that is more than enough playing detective from me. You all have been an absolute joy to have. Don't make yourself strangers, please. Come back and visit whenever it is that you wish.
If you hear anything more, will you contact me? And Maeve will hand over her card.
Of course, I can certainly do that. I'll be keeping an eye on every artist that lives in Miami, so there's a new one to add to the clutch.
And it's a real fancy business card.
It's
like
with the raised edges and everything.
Silver embossed. Like there's a QR code on the back.
It has like the perfect thickness to it.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Like it's smooth when you touch it. You're like, ooh, that's expensive. Yeah.
With that, Juniper Lee runs back over to you all, very excited, very tired, and says, "Are we getting ready to go?"
When you are, dear.
Yeah, Crystal said that she's got to go to work tomorrow, so I guess we should probably leave.
Did you tell her thank you?
Oh, yeah, a couple of times.
Did you tip her?
No, should I tip her?
Yes, here. And Maeve will reach into her wallet and take out some cash and give it to Juniper. Don't keep all of it. You need to actually tip people who help you.
Right, yeah. And
Thank you.
she runs back, and you see her handing some money to Crystal. And Crystal just sort of like laughs and
It's like
pats her on the back a couple
$200.
of times. She gives her probably $100.
Okay.
And she just like pats her on the back very heavily. Juniper gives her a hug and then runs back over to you all. And with that, unless anyone has anything else that they'd like to handle in Wynwood, I believe you make your way back to the car.
As we're just a passing statement as we're leaving and walking away from Caspin, I'll just be like, "We'll see you in your dreams, I guess."
I'm sure you'll be there. And you make your way out of the Wynwoods and return to your SUV, where you see there is a man that's probably like 5'9", wearing police officer beats, and sort of like is writing down a ticket and looks over at you all and goes, "You the owners of this vehicle?
Yes.
You can't park here after 7, so it's gonna have to write you a ticket for it. Sorry."
Maeve looks around. Is there any sign that says she can't park here after 7?
Nope.
There aren't any signs that say that I cannot park here after 7.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that you can't park here after 7. And he just like continues writing the ticket.
I mean, Maeve can afford it, so she's not gonna fight him.
No. Don will walk over to the cop and just trying to use the dominate discipline.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead and make a
and
rouse check.
yeah, which is
so go ahead and roll all of your blood dice, basically. So you have a hunger of 2, so roll 2.
both successes.
Okay. Then you activate the aura begins to come off of you in waves as you approach this person. And what do you say or do?
Listen, we're not from around here. We were just trying to show our cousin some beautiful art. She's an aspiring artist, and it would be so great if you could just forgive us this one time, and we'll promise we'll never do it again.
And he looks at you sort of like mesmerized. What colors are flashing in his eyes while he's under your dominate?
Silvers and purples.
And he says, "Right, yeah, of course. It's no problem. I mean, it's not like the car was in the way of anybody." He just takes it and crumples up the paper, tucks it in his pocket. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your evening."
Thank you, you too.
And he just sort of wanders down the street, and Juniper goes, "Can I do that?"
We could teach you if you don't already know. We don't know what you can do.
Right. I guess I could probably do things other than like move shadows around, right? That makes sense.
Possibly.
You're very powerful.
Blood tastes really good. Like, even better than like food I used to like.
That is a feature of who you are now, yes.
Do you guys like being vampires? Or kindred?
Maeve smiles real big. Sometimes I don't, but most of the time, yes, I do.
A lot of fun perks that come with it.
I love it.
Y'all ever like miss going out in like the daytime and stuff?
No, I never went out in the daytime. I was already up all night all the time when I was turned. So no, I do not miss the daytime. Do you see this skin? It's not made for the sun.
I thrived in the nighttime, even in my living life.
I've always been a night person.
Oh, definitely. mean, the best clubs wouldn't open till 10 o'clock anyway.
Right, exactly.
Right, the best parties never started earlier than 9 p.m.
There
Is
are
there something you
many.
missed, dear?
Well, I was just thinking, like Crystal's nice and everything, and Caspin and everyone was nice, but they're all like adults. I don't really have anybody to that's my age, you know?
I see what you're saying. Well, I can make it a special project of mine to find other people your age, people like us that are your age. There might not be many. It's not common to have children be kindred. And then Dawn has so many followers. I'm sure she has some human children that will be up late enough for you to be friends with.
Yeah. And they're very aware of some of our lifestyle, and it doesn't faze them. In fact, it might make them like you more.
We're really different than them, huh?
Yes. But I have a feeling you were different before.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, your parents sound really weird. What's up with that?
Oh, they were. They were. I mean, they weren't nice all the time, but I don't know. I kind of miss them.
Yeah, I know how you feel.
Do you want to see them?
I don't know. I think I'd like to see my mom's face if she could see my hair.
So would I. Do you have her phone number? We can text her a picture.
Oh, she doesn't. She doesn't. When she's gone on work, she doesn't have a cell phone.
Does she go to work often?
Yeah, her and my dad are gone a lot. That's when and she just sort of like points to like the shaved sides, which were uneven, but Crystal went through and evened them out.
What did they do for work?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. They always used to. I think my dad was like a traveling like pastor or something. I've heard him like say prayers and stuff, kind of like what Dawn was saying earlier.
Any particular iconography at home? Symbols?
Just
Books.
mostly like crosses, Bibles, stuff like that.
Interesting.
Do your parents have any like secret rooms in your house that you couldn't go to?
I mean, I wasn't allowed in their room, but they didn't really come in mine very much. Other than that, I was usually home more than they were.
Who stayed with you when you were at home?
Nobody.
Well, you won't be alone anymore, as it turns out.
Right.
You'll
Yeah,
always
sure.
have the voices.
Yeah. That's yeah. I gotta show Sawyer all these shadow things.
I'm sure
like,
Sawyer will
like,
find them very entertaining definitely.
And you see she like steps into the car. As she does, Dawn and Pearl, roll me wits plus awareness. Actually, you know what? Maeve, you can also make this roll. Wits plus awareness.
Can I add my hearing to it? That's my like special ability with awareness.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. 2, 3, 7, 8.
5 successes.
So it's anything below 4, is that correct?
Yeah, 4 and up.
4 and up, okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 successes.
2 successes and a 1 on my blood dice.
Okay. So with a bestial failure, you do get a little bit hungrier. Okay. You're the first to notice, Maeve, that there is a woman who's just sort of standing toward a person that's standing towards the edge of the street, wearing sort of clothes from around the time that you returned, like 50s type chic, very wide brimmed hats, dressed in mostly white with some dark blues underneath. Just sort of like watching you all get into the car. Dawn, when you clock it, there's something familiar about this woman or person that you can't completely place.
We're being watched.
Pearl, you also notice this person at the end of the street.
Maeve tells everyone quickly get in the vehicle, and once everyone's in, she's like, "We're being watched."
Should I wave?
Is the person familiar to you?
Yes, but I can't quite remember where. You know, like when you're watching a movie, you're like, I know that actor, but I'm not sure what I've seen them in. So then you have to IMDb them, and then you're like, oh, we should have an IMDb for like real life.
Somebody told me that Tom Cruise is a vampire.
Oh, he is.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that guy was weird.
He's very weird. Well, we can try to communicate with them, or we can go home.
I'm trying to pull up my abilities. No, I'm going to use Eyes of the Beast.
Okay. Fantastic. And remind me what that does exactly.
Activate Eyes of the Beast. While active, the user ignores any sight penalties imposed by darkness, including supernatural.
Okay. So as you sort of like squint, the shade and darkness around this person sort of fades. And you see this sort of like lilac purple hair that is sort of tucked mostly under the hat, and just the smallest, like almost like a wistful smile on the face, and they're like half moon glasses on the bridge of their nose, just sort of watching. Since you can make them out a little bit better, you can go ahead and make me a wits plus insight check.
Wits plus insight.
Since you can sort of, you're close enough to see the body language and such.
That is 2 successes.
2 successes. Okay. With 2 successes, it's hard to tell exactly what it is that this person is looking at you all for. But there doesn't seem to be any like particular malice or anything like that coming off of them. They just seem to be staring at you all as you get into your car.
Can I try to have a premonition?
You can. And oddly enough, no rouse check needed. And it's almost as though as you start to try and have a premonition, it happens immediately. You don't have to like start it of your own accord. It just starts. What are you trying to have a premonition about?
Who the person is that's watching us and maybe why they're watching us.
Okay. As you have this premonition, You sort of go into your slightly dancey trance, and everything slows down around you. And as it does, everything begins to disappear. Just things just blink out into darkness. And you see the woman says, you're pretty good at that, you know.
You're pretty good at this. You were trying to contact me.
Well, yes.
Or us?
All of you. I just... Technically, I'm not supposed to be here, but I don't know. I wanted to see her. She's delightfully interesting, isn't she?
Who are you?
My name is Genevieve. It's nice to meet you. She extends a hand.
I will shake it.
You know, one time, me and my coterie, we had to look after a child that reminds me a lot of her.
And where is this child now?
That's a little difficult to explain. I'm sorry. I know this is very cryptic and not very helpful. I apologize. I used to hate when this happened, but I can't tell you. Listen, at the end of the day, Juniper never really got to be herself in her life. Hopefully she gets a chance to be herself in her own life. Because that's the one thing you can carry over, right?
Yeah. Does she know you?
No, she probably wouldn't. Maybe one day she will.
Maybe.
If my eyes aren't lying to me, she will be very important indeed.
She already is.
And you see just the widest, most earnest smile say, she is, isn't she? Sorry to intrude, and hopefully no one in your coterie is too on edge, but I have to go before I get yelled at.
Okay. Safe travels wherever you are from.
Thank you. And you see she just sort of continues walking off into the shadow, and you can't really... It's got to be a trick of the light. But it looks like she almost dissolves into the moonlight. As she sort of walks toward the horizon edge of the street, she just kind of disappears. Maeve and Pearl, are either of you keeping your eyes on this person?
Oh, yeah.
As Dawn is doing the thing. Then I need both of you to make me a willpower roll.
How do I do that?
On your sheet, you should have about 7 willpower boxes marked.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to go ahead and roll all 7 of those and tell me how many successes you get.
Six. I'm rolling really well today.
6 successes.
Ooh.
6 successes is unfortunately not enough. And as you're watching her, you don't take your eyes off of this person. You just blink and they're gone.
I've got to learn how to do that.
Do what?
Oh, that was interesting.
What was interesting? You just started dancing.
Um, was that something that would be affected by Unswayable Mind at all?
It is not,
Okay.
unfortunately. It was not a charm effect.
I don't think they were a danger to you or any of us for the moment. Her name was Genevieve.
Is that name familiar to you, Juniper?
Mm-mm.
She just wanted to see you. She said her and her coterie a while back were also in charge of a young kindred. And when I asked where they were now, she didn't really answer. Um, her intention seemed pure. I think she was just curious, like so many are these days.
Well then, we shall keep an eye out for her.
I think so.
Juniper, are you ready
Okay.
to retire for the night?
Yeah, I'm kind of tired, and I want to talk to Sawyer.
Okay. Maeve
And
locks the doors and drives home.
with that, Maeve sort of knuckled grasp on the wheel as you all drive. The drive back is pretty uneventful. You arrive probably only like 2 or so hours before sunrise. So for you all, you've been out for a while. Um, but overall, it was a good trip. Uh, as you approach, Phyllis unlocks the door and says, "Welcome back. How are you all faring? Hopefully, your trip was successful."
Quite.
Yeah, Phyllis, do you have like an IMDb for people?
I could collect something like that.
Okay. Can you find out there's this person with like purple hair, a big hat, white suit, blue undersuit things, and
Half moon glasses.
half moon glasses. I think those are distinct enough that maybe you could like, I don't know, find out who she is.
Prince Baxter has security cameras installed over pretty much every square inch of Florida. I will begin compiling facial recognition software and see what results I can find.
Great. I think her name, she said her name was Genevieve. That might be a lie.
Understood. I will likely not have results until you awaken the next night.
Okay,
Understandable.
cool. Can you send some Palo Santo wood up to my room?
Of course.
Thanks.
And you see Juniper sort of like go over to the kitchen counter, reach into her bag, and pull out one of the lemons that was like toward the bottom. She like stares at it for a second, opens the trash can and throws it away, and then pulls out the other two and also throws them away. She doesn't look. There is a sadness, but there's also like a resoluteness. And as she closes the trash can, she says, "Lemons used to be my favorite snack, but
You have a new favorite snack.
right."
Let's see those fangs.
Ah.
Yeah.
And she makes her way back up to her room, closes the door, and you all are left to your own devices for the evening. Is there anything else anyone would like to do before they head to bed?
Can I see if I know anybody who might know Genevieve?
Absolutely. Go ahead and do you have particular contacts in your merits and like boons and advantages section?
No,
Okay.
but I almost took the like I know somebody kind of beat, but I didn't. But I do have a couple points in Streetwise,
Yeah.
and I figure like there's gotta be something. Like,
Gotta be, right?
she's very rich. Like she's gotta have something.
Go ahead and roll me manipulation plus streetwise or subterfuge, your choice.
Okay.
Can I also check my contacts
Absolutely.
in the drag scene? Okay.
I would say that your contact specifically would lean more towards streetwise than subterfuge.
Okay.
But yeah.
I have 4 successes.
Okay.
Four successes.
Okay. With 4 successes apiece, you don't get any information about a person named Genevieve, a kindred named Genevieve in either one of your networks. You both are pointed to someone does mention that the garb and the half moon glasses sounds like an occult flavored thing. And maybe it would have something to do with occultish knowledge. All 3 of you, if you would like to, you can make me an intelligence plus occult roll. You will need at least 8 successes.
Total?
Yes.
I'm not
All of us?
No, I don't. I only have 1 dice I can roll.
I would say that you could do it between all of you. It could be an aggregate thing. And
Okay.
remember that rolling 10s is worth 2 successes.
Got it. Okay. Occult. Okay.
You can also, as another point, since this has not come up before now, you can spend a point of your willpower to re-roll any failed dice. And this is true for any roll. And you regain your willpower by indulging in your flaws and like sin type things.
Okay.
I rolled a 10 on my dice.
It's 2 successes.
I rolled 3 10s.
3 10s. Okay, so that's 6.
I have
Dang.
4 successes.
Okay, so 11 successes between the 3 of you. So sitting down and sort of parsing through this information, it takes you so long that partway through the conclusion of this information gathering, Phyllis shutters the windows and doors because the sun is coming up. And you all are beginning to feel like that sort of ache of the moon going away. But you're at the very end, so you sort of push through. And after contacting a couple of Malkavian occultists, sort of witch-like people that you contact, you dig up the name Genevieve and realize it is the name of an old god that used to be worshipped back in the time of like when people claimed that there were dungeons to be cleared and dragons to be conquered. She is certainly an old deity. But there was always this myth that the old gods were vampires. And it's sort of the basis of a lot of there's a very niche kindred community that believes like we are the children of gods, like the people who made this world were like us, etc., and things like that. And the description you've given matches the sort of iconography of a lot of that god's depictions. Yeah, that's what you managed to come up with.
Okay.
That's certainly interesting.
My first god encounter. I don't know about you.
I talk to the gods all the day, every day. But I guess don't usually see them.
Well, then, should we retire?
Yes, I guess.
I need time to process.
I guess Sawyer will talk to Juniper tonight, and we can discuss it all later. What it means. Does that mean we'll have to go see Casper again?
You talking about Caspian?
Yes.
I don't see why.
Didn't he want the information about what the symbols meant?
They knew and did not want to tell us.
Huh.
Said that they didn't want to ruin the fun for us. So we'll find out on our own and share the information among us and see if we find out anything new about this child.
That makes me like them less. But okay.
And Maeve goes upstairs and to her room and takes off her makeup and goes to bed.
You all slide into your various sleeping arrangements. Do any of you sleep in a coffin? Okay. As you settle into your arrangements for the morning and begin to drift off to the ever-present sort of dark red, orangish void that is sleep for Kindred, as Kindred do not dream. That is where we're going to end tonight's session of Lost in Miami. Thank you all so much for joining us. You lovely people have been such a joy. As always, big thank you to all of the players. Hopefully everyone enjoyed themselves. And as I mentioned, next time we will see the triumphant return of everyone's favorite Sawyer. But before we get to outros, there is a bit of an end credit scene, if you will. As the camera sort of pushes out past this house where these people are sleeping, there is, right before the moon disappears, we see Juniper looking out the window and up the sky, and the camera zooms far, far, far away from Florida, from the United States, from Earth. And sitting cross-legged on the moon is that same figure that says, when the war of the beasts brings about the world's end, and the goddess descends from the sky, wings of light and dark spread afar, she will guide us to bliss, her gift everlasting. Infinite in mystery is the gift of the goddess. My friend, do you fly away now from a world that abhors you and I? All that awaits you is a somber morrow. But no matter where the winds may blow, your truth and your desire is the bringer of life, the gift of the goddess, and nothing shall forestall its return. And you see that she just sort of stares at this unnatural sight, at the world, the United States, at Florida, and back through that same window into the eyes of a little girl who yawns, gets in her bed, and falls asleep. So, like I said, thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to do some outros And this time we are going to start with the lovely Dawn.
Hello, my name is Christiana, or Chris. I use she, her pronouns, and you can find me on Twitter at Carpe Christie. I enjoy these sessions so much, Dee. You are so talented. I love being GM'd by you. And I look forward to next week when we have everyone. So, yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
Hi, my name's Amanda, and I have been playing Pearl. I use she, her pronouns, and you can find me over on Twitter at Panda Cabra. It's like a panda and a chupacabra. Had a little baby, a little weird, a little cute. Yeah, this has been like an amazing session and so many mysteries, and I can't wait for next week. And then I'm going to pass it off to Nikki.
Hello, I'm Nikki. I am co-creator here at TTRPG. I'm an educator, LGBTQ, and disability advocate for teachers. And you can follow me everywhere. I want you to find me online as halfling_Nikki. That's Nikki. And this has been lovely. I am super excited for next week. And then also tune in on Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific for our finale of season 1 of Avatar the Reclamations. Like Avatar the Last Airbender, except for we're adults and we can say fuck. It's wonderful.
Hell yeah. And I am, my wonderful creatures of the night. My name is Dee. I am a voice actor, streamer, musician, professional GM all across the internet. On Mondays, you can find me over on the Critical Misses channel, where I play a Deizuko in the Roll20 Spotlight show Kingsguard. Next Tuesday, you can find me here for the next wonderful episode of this impossibly fun game. And in the future, you'll be able to find me in other places for actual plays, but I am taking a bit of a break during the spring season. You can find me on my channel or on Twitter at It's Riddler. I am the reigning and retaining TTRPG Universal Champion. And if you want to find out how you can maybe win this belt off me, you should follow me on Twitter. But with all that having been said, thank you all so much for watching, and we will catch you the next time we are able to. But until then, don't get lost in Miami, folks. Bye.